Hey everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Mastering Positive Pay, Safeguarding Payments in the Digital Era. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of offering ACH and check positive pay to your business customers and ways to grow your commercial account portfolio and tips on how to react when a customer has fraud and easy ways to manage it using positive pay. I'm Jamie Berg, and I'm the Director of Sales for Treasury Management Services at Alchemy. I've been with the company for a little over 3 years, and prior, I was using the ACH Positive Pay solution at the financial institution I came from. I have 25 years of treasury management experience, mostly on the banking side. I actually managed a treasury and payment service department and was responsible for sales, support, product, and business deposits. I'm thrilled to introduce my co-host today, Meredith Gilbert. She's from First National Bank of Omaha. They've been a long-term customer of Alchemy, and they've been using our positive pay solutions in EDI. Meredith, could you please share a little bit about yourself with us?
Hello, everyone. Like Jamie said, my name is Meredith Gilbert. I've been with FNBO for about 1.5 years, and along with some of the other treasury products that we have at the bank, I am currently managing the Alchemy ACH and check positive products for positive pay products for FNBO.
Mastering positive pay in the digital era requires you to offer industry-leading solutions, not only to protect your customers, but to protect the bank. They also have to be a seamless customer experience. One of the top fraud prevention solutions in the market is positive pay, which alerts your business customers via email and or text when a fraudulent or suspect item has come in for payment. When your customer has tools like this within their digital banking platform, it's easy for them to review the items, pay or return them automatically, and then move on to the next step of their day. These tools also reduce the need for your business customers to reach out to your branches, to your staff, and it gives the bank a lot more operational efficiency. Alchemy's been offering fraud prevention services for over 10 years. We've recently seen a huge adoption from smaller banks offering these services for the first time, as fraud's continuing to grow within the industry and it's getting more sophisticated. We actually started seeing positive pay become a table stake for a lot of our financial institutions, including banks and credit unions. And this has also become a standard from a business suite offering. Today, we actually support over 300 financial institutions, starting from a $52 million financial institution as large as a financial institution over $200 billion. Our solution is a front and back end solution, so it's really taking place of a core and of an online banking solution. This is a seamless solution that can use a single sign-on right from your digital banking platform. Last year, we actually monitored over $408 billion worth of transactions. $1.6 billion were returned either as unauthorized, fraudulent, or washed. Imagine the financial losses that a bank would have had or a customer if this hadn't happened. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about the many benefits of positive pay for the financial institution. Some of these include loss prevention. Obviously, the key benefit, not only for the financial institution, but also for your business customers. As you saw on the previous slide, our financial institution clients actually prevented a significant reduction in losses that would have happened if they didn't have a positive pay solution in place. Acquire, retain business clients. To be competitive, we're seeing that financial institutions have to have services like this to acquire clients and to retain them. As fraud's persisting, we're actually seeing that many not-for-profits and municipalities are actually making this a requirement of their financial institution. As these funds aren't theirs, it's their fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the funds are secure. So they're making sure that they have all the products in place to ensure that the entity is stable and won't have any losses. And again, it is certainly the same for your business customers. Revenue generation. Traditionally, ACH and check positive pay are solutions that banks and credit unions have charged for. They're a value add They're usually part of a cash management suite. And at most financial institutions, cash management services or treasury management services are really thought to be an income revenue generator for the bank or financial institution and add to the bottom line. Automation and efficiency. Positive pay solutions really eliminate a lot of outreach from the customer. And what that means is if there's a fraudulent item that's coming or a suspect item, with positive pay, they can go right into the solution, return or pay the item. And it's much more automated for the operations department. They can actually receive a file of all the checks or ACH items that, in fact, the customer needs to be returned, eliminating all that back and forth. Regulatory and compliance. With regulatory and compliance, these products actually offer something that's considered to be commercially reasonable. And a lot of financial institutions have started giving their business customers the opt-in or opt-out. So in other words, if you've presented these solutions to your customers and they've opted out, you've given them something commercially reasonable. And then if they have fraud, they actually, as a financial institution, have legs to stand on because you've offered them something commercially reasonable that they've opted out of. So that's one of the great things about positive pay is that you can try to get your customers to sign up for these solutions proactively versus reactively. And hopefully the majority of your business clients will actually sign up in advance proactively versus after they've had fraud. Meredith, what type of benefits has FMBO seen from these positive pay solutions?
Thanks, Jamie. We've seen all of the ones that you've mentioned above. I mean, we are using positive pay as a way to add value to our customers' relationship with the bank and as a fraud prevention service and monitoring on our bank accounts so that our customers aren't having to deal with fraud on the back end.
Meredith, thanks so much for that feedback. And clearly what you're seeing are the similar trends that we're seeing within the industry. That's great to hear. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about commercial and business account growth. Financial institutions have really been on quite the roller coaster over the past few years. Back in 2020, during COVID and the PPP loan program, financial institutions had a huge growth in deposits. But now that those deposits have depleted, we're actually seeing financial institutions now trying again to grow deposits. And it's a little bit challenging at times. So these extra deposits that institutions are now needing, it's a lot easier to get those through business deposits because obviously business deposits are larger, they have larger balances, and it's much more beneficial. And to grow commercial deposits, you need to be competitive. You got to have all the products that a customer is looking for. And not only that, you've got to offer a rate that they're looking for, but it doesn't have to mean it's the best rate. So there's a little bit more of a winning combination. So as banks are looking and credit unions are looking to win business deposits, it can be complex because businesses are complex. For small businesses to middle market to corporate and commercial, they all have a different array of banking needs. Therefore, businesses are not just making decisions on one element. They're looking at the digital banking platform. They're looking at the combination of services that are offered, the relationship, the product, and the pricing. And, really customer service is a key element because if you're not there to support your customer, then they're going to find somewhere else to go. So making sure that you have a great customer service and a great experience is so incredibly important. You need to understand your account holders' needs, what products, what do they need to add over time as they're growing and changing. It's so important to make sure that you're educating your clients because you want to make sure that they're not victim to fraud. So making sure that they know that you have positive pay is really, really important. But the relevance in service and relationship, if you don't have a strong product, it's hard to win the business relationship. As we mentioned before, positive pays become table stakes. Businesses are so well aware of losses that are occurring in the market that they're making sure that they have the right suite of products to protect the business, the not-for-profit, the municipality. And of course, pricing is a key element, but it's not the only piece of the pie. So as a bank is looking to grow deposits, make sure that you have the entire suite that you need. And remember, it's not one piece of the pie. You need to have all the pieces of the pie, the service, the relationship, the product, and the price, because people are going to make decisions not on one factor. And that's really important to think about. Meredith, understanding positive pay is imperative to protect business customers from fraud. How is FMBO positioning positive pay for your clients?
Checking ACH positive pay is really ideal for customers that have experienced fraud, or they want to reduce fraudulent activity on their accounts, and they want a more streamlined option for responding to fraud and protecting their assets. If customers are proactive in managing the fraud on their account, it can help them save so much time and money by not having to deal with the consequences of it when it occurs. There's that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of a cure, and positive pay is really a product that helps them tremendously.
Meredith, I love that quote. I might actually steal it.
The current breakdown of our positive pay users today is about 55% check positive pay and 45% ACH positive pay. Most of the customers that are also doing ACH and have ACH positive pay have both check and ACH positive pay. So those that have ACH are also doing check positive pay. So they have both products. And of those clients, a majority of them are medium to large businesses.
Meredith, those are great statistics. I'm sure that many people listening to this are a little envious of your adoption rates because they're really, really impressive. So let's talk a little bit more about risk. So risk is everywhere for businesses and financial institutions too, because a financial institution is also a business. So they have to deal with cyber threats, payment fraud, inflation, regulations, staffing, and talent shortages. So businesses are looking for tools to help mitigate risk. And when you really think about it, one of the great solutions is positive pay, because it's something that they can actually enroll in and purchase to prevent payment fraud. They still have other things that they need to look at for cyber threats, for regulation changes and the inflation, but any tools that a financial institution can prepare for their business customer is just hugely advantageous for them. And hopefully they will adopt it because it's a check off that list of risks that they have to be prepared to stop. So interestingly enough, treasury management fees have continued to increase over the years for financial institutions. So as we talked about it, this actually helps a financial institution's bottom line. It's revenue right to the bottom. And in 2021, there was an actual increase of 9%. 2022, it increased to 3.5% of revenue increases. So clearly, as frauds continue to grow, there's more and more adoption for treasury management services. And this really leads us to believe that having the most strategic suite of products is going to be beneficial not only to the financial institutions, but beneficial to every customer. So Meredith, how has positive pay been driving revenue at FMBO?
So FMBO does charge our customers for the positive pay service as a value add fraud solution. So we are generating revenue, but we're providing a beneficial service to our customers.
So Meredith, that's so true. It really, not only is it a revenue generator, but it is giving your customers a service. And I couldn't agree more. And hopefully all customers are seeing the value in the prevention versus the reactive approach. Meredith, can you also share with us a little bit about FMBO's approach to positive pay, how you're rolling it out in the market?
Sure. So Positive pay is always offered upon account opening for fraud protection and prevention. So we will talk to the customers about whether they have experienced fraud. If so, were they able to recover the loss? How would a lost or stolen check impact their business? We also have some tracking mechanisms that will look at the number of ACH and check items for customers that are currently not using positive pay, and how much they're running monthly, so that our sales folks can target those customers specifically. We'll also strongly recommend adding positive pay for those customers, for our current customers that do experience fraud on their account, to prevent any future events from occurring.
Meredith, can you also share a little bit more about some of the operational efficiencies that FMBO has achieved since you started partnering with Alchemy?
Sure. So the Alchemy Positive Pay Fraud Dashboard has been beneficial not only for our customers, but for our back end and internal users as well. Previously, our internal users would need to log into 3 or 4 different systems to complete research, but the Alchemy platform combines all of those processes into one system. It's also automated quite a lot of processes for us internally, which has saved a lot of time in managing these products. And for our customers, the system is very user-friendly. It gives them more access to manage items themselves and research items on their own without needing to contact their bank representative for help. And customers are able to access the fraud prevention dashboard directly through their online banking platform. So they're not having to log in to multiple different systems to manage their banking relationship with FMBO.
So 65% of all organizations have actually reported an attempted or actual payment fraud. That's a really scary statistic, because when you really think about it, that means only 35% of businesses haven't actually had an attempt. So as I always say, it's not if a business is going to have an attempted fraud, it's when. And hopefully most financial institutions and businesses don't have losses, but we know the truth that many have. So here's some interesting data for all of you. Checks continue to be most vulnerable to payment fraud. And the reason I think that that's probably true is if you think about the advanced technology and the more sophisticated fraudsters have gotten, checks are actually really easy to replicate. They're easy to wash, changing that payee, changing that dollar amount. It's not that hard. And one of the other interesting statistics is that according to FinCEN, check fraud SARs actually increased almost 100%. So they went from 380,000 to 650,000 SARs for check fraud in 2022. That's just an incredible jump. And it really aligns with what we're hearing in the industry. When you think about the number of financial institutions looking to add check positive pay, it's really because of the statistic, I'm sure. Another interesting statistic is that checks have actually decreased. So in 2022, AFP actually reported that 33% of organizations use checks for business to business. Well, in 2004, 80% did. So, even though checks are going down, we're really still seeing a lot more check fraud. So it's really interesting to see the trends. And you can see right here that, commercial credit cards are still very vulnerable. ACH fraud is still very vulnerable. Debits and credits. It's those micro deposits or those mules who are taking those credits. So fraud's still prevalent and check fraud is still very, very prevalent. So Meredith, can you tell us a little bit about how payment fraud is impacting FMBO?
Sure. So check fraud is also what we see most often. Commercial check disputes are climbing. Since March, we've seen about a 38% increase. There's also an increase in check fraud, and total dollar amount of fraud is climbing. Primarily, though, this is true for accounts that aren't using positive pay. We are seeing a rise in attempts on customers that are using positive pay, But since these are caught by the system, it's just enhancing our belief in the need for customers to be using check or ACH positive pay.
Great information to share. I'm sure that that's helpful to the group. So another interesting study that came out by Alloy is that 70% of all financial institutions actually lost over $500,000 in 2022 to fraud. So, and then when you start looking at this, you'll see that 24% lost between $1 million and $10 million. Now, I don't know how many of them actually lost, 10 million or 8 or 9 million, but clearly there's some big losses happening at financial institutions. And this really affects the bottom line of a financial institution. Banks can't afford to lose funds, nor can their customers. So it's really important to have a preventative method in place and to make sure that these options are being rolled out to customers. Banks, years ago were always really concerned about their reserves for their loan write-offs, but now they have to be really concerned about their reserves for fraud losses. So things have changed over the years in banking. So Meredith, can you share with me how payment fraud is actually impacting the FMBO clients specifically?
So the more fraud that a client sees, it's more work the customer must do to resolve it. The fraud not only impacts our customers financially, but it's also a burden on their resources just due to the amount of time it takes them to resolve. Typically, businesses will need to order new checks, close accounts, reopen new accounts. And in reality, setting them up and training them on how to use positive pay does not take as long as it would for them to deal with the fallout from a fraud event and opening and closing new accounts. We typically do not see fraud events occur on customers that are using positive pay, but we definitely do on those that don't. We can see the attempts that occur and items that are stopped from our customers using positive pay, which, like I said earlier, just makes us realize how important it is for customers to be using these solutions.
I think the next slide is going to really speak to what you just said. Payment for fraud and recovery of funds are so rare. Prevention is the only viable course of action. So this is one of my favorite quotes. And we keep using the word prevention, being proactive. And it really is the best course of action. And this is a quote from Frank Abagnale. He's the co-author of Catch Me If You Can. If you haven't read the book or seen the movie, it's well worth it. He was arrested by the FBI many years ago and then ended up going to work for them. He was a huge fraudster doing check fraud. So commercial and business account protection. This is really something that's kind of interesting. One of the things is making sure that your customers are aware of best practices. And part of the best practices really are educating your customers, because a lot of the time your business customer doesn't actually understand that the rules and regulations to protect them are different than the consumer regulations. Consumers really are well protected, but businesses, they only have a certain time frame to react to fraudulent transactions. So making sure that you're making your customers aware of those rules and regulations and how they are protected and aren't protected as a business, making sure that you're addressing things with them from an educational standpoint, like what's going on in the market from a fraud trend perspective, like business email compromise, helping them understand how they can recognize it, some best practices there. And then, of course, proactive versus reactive sales. We've probably said that about 10 times through this session, but making sure that your customers actually understand the benefits to that. And one thing that I usually like to share with financial institutions is you want your customers to start thinking about ACH and check positive pay like insurance. It's something that they can relate to. So they purchase the insurance, they purchase the positive pay. So if there's an attempt at fraud, as Meredith said, they're not going to have any losses. And that's just really, really important. And I think it's easier for them to see that value if it's explained that way. It's like an insurance policy. Making sure your business accounts are offered commercially reasonable products is really also important. So making sure you're educating them to make them aware. And a lot of banks are actually now giving the opt-in or opt-out option. So that way, if they opt out, you've offered them something commercially reasonable. If they've opted in, even better. And this also means that your staff is going to be well educated, and they're also going to be the expert. So they're educating the customer, they're going to be the expert and that person that your customer always goes to. So Meredith, what does your process look like for FMBO and your business accounts when fraud is actually detected?
So the first thing that usually happens is the bank and the customers go into remediation, get the account on hold, try to start the process to recoup the funds that can be recouped. Most of the time, it really depends on the timing of when the fraud occurred. If it happened yesterday, it's a lot easier than if it happened a week ago. Mostly we focus on recovery. We look at options to return, look at options to dispute, have the customer file a police report, fill out an affidavit, and work with other banks to recover the funds. But again, having positive pay on the account initially will save the customer tons of time and money than having to deal with the repercussions of the fraud when it happens.
So as we wrap up today's webinar on positive pay, please take a minute to look at the poll on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you could respond, that would be wonderful. If you found the information we shared with you today valuable and would like to learn more, please let us know. And we can certainly give you a demo of our solution. So there are many, many benefits to positive pay for your financial institution. Loss prevention. As a business account holder, the user is not protected like a personal account. We talked a little bit about that. Control, by allowing business customers to have self-service. And that's something that we didn't really highlight that much today. But your customers, when you really think about them, they want to be in control. If they actually see something that's hit their account, they want to be able to act on it. And if they have positive pay, they can go right on, return that item really easily. Not only can they return it, they can pay it if it's actually something that's legitimate. The visibility, and that comes with the control. Without the visibility through their online banking, they're not going to easily be able to go in and manage these items. So the more visibility you can give to your clients, it's going to be a lot more efficient for them and for the financial institution. Convenience and efficiency. Gone are the days of phone calls or people coming into branches. We certainly have seen that change over many, many years, and even more so during COVID. So it's much easier for them to go online to dispute a transaction because they have such a short time frame to actually go in and reach out to the bank to get that item returned within the time frame. People are busy, business owners are busy, and trying to juggle things, on the accounting standpoint can be challenging at times. So having things at their fingertips is so much easier. Giving your customers control, giving them visibility will help with loss prevention. As we wrap up the webinar today, I really want to thank all of you for participating. I really want to thank Meredith for her time, and hopefully you all have some valuable takeaways to help your financial institution and your business customers. Thank you again, and have a great day.